Oh, really? I'm going to have to start eating my food that I've stored up.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
no, I think it's coming. I really think it's coming down. I don't know how long it'll last, but there's only one. It's got to crash to ever start over. And my understanding is from some of the people that I have, some of my intel, that there's going to be some high officials in the United States and across the world that are going to get arrested and never. They're either going to be imprisoned or executed. And
I agree, Jim.
I think the last number I saw, there were 750 of, and they were talking about high officials in the U.S. and across the country, and then primarily I think they're talking about politicians and bankers. But I think there's a group there. I know for a fact that there's a group of people out there that are working toward solving this thing, and it's going to all change. And I don't think it'll be a pretty sight for a while. And I think we'll be under martial law for a while. And the information I got said when they declare martial law, just stay home and not get out on the road, because that's the ones they're going to be throwing in the FEMA camps, those that can catch out on the road.
Well, we'll certainly find out for sure. And thank you so much for the call, Jim. Griff, I want to bring something up that is very interesting, and it's another thing that people don't really think about when they're preparing. But MSNBC came out with an article today called, "So, how do you shut off a whole nation's internet?" And it's an article that it says MIT experts say it depends on ISP ownership and doubts it would happen in the United States. I contend that what we're seeing now in Egypt is precedent setting. Wouldn't you say? Wouldn't you say that if they could see, if Egyptians can do it, then why in the heck can't the United States do the same thing?
Well, they can. Obama has the authority now, legally, to cut off the internet, and don't you think he wouldn't do it?
Right.
You see, in my opinion, Obama is orchestrating the demise of the country. That is the agenda that I'm seeing come down from the Obama government. He's not trying to better the country. He's trying to create a chaotic demise of the country.
No, you're absolutely right. And it's going to go down in flames. I mean, there ain't no doubt about it. But if that happens and they flip the switch, people have to remember a couple of things, okay? And this all goes into your preparation when you go to make your plans and things like that. There are different ways to go about communicating after that happens. Of course, you have ham radio. Griff, you've been doing that for about 190 years now, so I mean it's
almost 60 years.
I know, isn't that crazy? Does
it
feel like 60 years?
I've been in ham radio almost 60 years.
How does that feel?
Feels old. And I remember, I can remember when I was 5 years old. It seemed like yesterday. One day you will experience, if you're lucky. You will understand what I'm saying if you're lucky.
Yeah, I think the road to get there is going to be a little bit harder than yours was, man. But
I think so, yes.
I'll sure give it my all for sure.
I know that organizations are planning amateur radio networks,
right.
not necessarily high-profile organized, but I know the militias are too. The best formed, the most organized, effective militia in the country is the Michigan militia. The others are degrees of wanting, but there are efforts across the country to establish an existing communication system once everything else fails.
Mm-hmm. Now,
in fact, there's a lot of activity going on very quietly right now.
Now, one thing that I do know is that a lot of phone companies out there, let me say cable companies that offer phone packages, that's all voice over IP. So chances are your phone's going to go with that if they shut down the internet. I don't know how the phone companies are going to work, those independent of the cable companies. Now, I know that where I am, we don't have that kind of technology. We still have the copper lines and all that. So in that case, if you're not using that type of technology, then you can actually regress and go back to, say, a bulletin board system type way of communication via dial-up modem, and you can connect your computers that way if need be. But I really truly think if that's the situation, then some sort of radio transmission would be the way to go, only because I think it would be a little bit more reliable. Now, the cost involved in that is going to be substantial for those that are preparing, because ham radio is not cheap. You know, so that's something also to consider. Griff, what would you say a good starter ham radio set would cost today?
Oh, gee, Joe, I haven't looked at prices for so long, but if you were talking about communicating in a city, in a small radius, in an area around you in a city, then you would go through a repeater, put a repeater up on top of a tower.
Right.
You may be able to get one now for something like $1,000.
Right.
Maybe.
So it's expensive.
And then you would talk through the repeaters, and they would come down. But all of this planning has to be done now. After the fact, when things go into martial law and it's chaos and gangs are roving, you're not going to be able to do things like that. You're just not.
Johnny Boy, your comment on this?
Well, I've been listening to you guys talk about how we're going to pass communications back and forth. The one thing I did find out about 2 weeks ago, some people are coming up with digital dead drop sites where they take those little memory sticks and they put them everywhere in the sides of buildings, and they mortar them in, or in the side of a tree in the middle of a field, and they put them out there. And all you need to do is take your laptop or whatever have you out there and hook up to these memory sticks and upload and download information through them. And they're saying that when Obama does throw the switch, notice I said does. When he does throw the switch, that'll be one way to pass communications back and forth, much like the notes that they used to pass back and forth during the French resistance in World War II. So
you're saying carrier pigeons are out?
they tend to get shot at.
Joe, when's the last time you priced carrier pigeon food?
Well, see, that's the thing. I wouldn't even think about carrier pigeon food, because chances are I'd be shooting the carrier pigeons and eating them. I'm just saying, you know.
I saw a passenger pigeon the other day. You know, they've been extinct for the last 50 years. I think I saw one flying in the backyard. I wrote it down.
Jeez, and all
it leaves you speechless, doesn't it?
And while all this stuff is going on, guys, in Davos. You had all these political leaders assemble, right? And Ban Ki-moon, let me highlight the one resource that is the scariest of all. Time, says UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon, as dozens of senior international figures swung by to lobby some of the richest and most powerful people on the planet. Ban was specifically talking about the battle to halt climate change. So he's still beating the global warming drum. Meanwhile, the world's falling apart around him. This is my point. They're not even connected. I don't get it. I mean, is this a joke? Here they are beating the global warming drum, and meanwhile, the world's in shambles. So here's the UN Secretary General, who's supposed to be all about love, peace, and harmony for everybody throughout the world, and freedom, and kumbaya, and everything else, and he's worried about global warming. You know, where in the heck is everybody at? You know, it's open your eyes time. I don't get it. I just don't get it.
Concentrate on self and family.
Self and family, because even the people that are supposed to have your best interest in mind, and believe me, they don't, you can't trust anybody. Is really what it comes down to. And it's boy, we're in a precarious spot. That's all I can say. And God forbid that these elitists make their move and say, "Oh, well, you know, Israel, you can't be surrounded by all these hardline governments, and boy, we need the oil anyway. So let's go take it, shall we? Because when that day comes, boy, that's going to be a real problem, and it's coming. I can smell it. I can smell it."
You know, Joe, I think the Egyptian thing was a takeover of the Suez, of that waterway, and takeover of the Egyptian government.
Sure.
And its proximity to Israel. I think that's what's really in back of it. I don't think it has anything to do with freedom. You have people out there in the street that think they're doing it for freedom, for democracy. That's pure BS. That's the way it works. That's the way it always works. The intelligence organizations use people and throw them a crumb, get them hyped up on democracy and freedom and justice and their civil rights. And Hillary's over there persuading Egypt to put emphasis on civil rights and all
right.
that. All
and
of
it has nothing to do with that. And you're absolutely right.
Nothing to do.
This is taking advantage of a situation. And boy, oh boy, I mean, when you talk about all of the things that this has as far as a win-win for the Illuminati, the NWO, whoever the heck you want to call them, you know, the cabal, Obama's harem, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. All I can tell you is this: the Suez, what a perfect opportunity to grab that. The oil, I mean, destabilize the region by taking the most, I think, one of the more stable countries in there, and totally destabilizing it, taking that out of the picture, and then installing radical Muslim leaders in their place gives them nothing but a green light to go in and go and take care of business. You know?
Yeah, it's a great location if you're the enemy of Israel and want to control the oil and other economics. Yeah.
And it all goes back to that thought, you know, because I was thinking about it, and I've heard so many people say it. Look for another war because America's bankrupt, and when America's bankrupt, they go to war. And
after the Second World War, we demolished all of the manufacturing pretty much in the world, all across Europe, and Japan. We were the king on the mountain. We won it fair and square, Joe.
No, I totally agree. But you know, you want to know something? You want to know something, Griff? What was that not the last war? Really, if you think about it, was that not the last legal war that we've ever been in? It was.
It was
the
legal
last
because we wrote the laws, fair and square.
We declared war. We said, you know what? This sucks. We declare war, and Congress went and declared war. Everything since then has been nothing but a police action or a something that, you know, Goldman Sachs will go to the president, hey man, you know, we don't like this guy. You need to go take care of this stuff. You know, and it is. This is war crime. This is treasonous. It's awful, and I'm kind of speechless. So, you know, being speechless and all, I think it would
in that case, again, do we really have the time to try to reason and try to make sense out of all of this? And if we were able to do that, which we're really not, if we were, though, and we came up with the true answers to all of these questions, what good would it do us? It wouldn't do us any good. We should be stocking food, devising lighting systems, heating systems for the house. It gets awful cold in the wintertime. If you don't plan ahead, you will not have electricity, you will not have wood, you will not have any of this.
No, I agree.
If you don't have the saw, you can't cut the wood. If you can't cut the wood, you can't burn in your stove. If you don't have a stove, you know, it goes on and on.
Oh, yeah, no, I mean, it's crazy, but you can't discount the power of one, and that's what it's all about, you know? If it's not the TSA pilot that stood up and said, I'm not going to take it anymore, if it's not the freaking guy that lights himself on fire for having a fruit stand without a permit and sparks all sorts of crap to go on, you know, my point is this, is that each individual wields the power to be able to make change. And
maybe
we shouldn't
a little bit.
Discount that. We shouldn't
if
discount
he gets lucky. You know,
Yeah.
the greatest